And good evening. Tonight we start with breaking news as we come on the air. President Trump calling for a ceasefire between Israel and Iran to be phased in over the next 24 hours. This comes as Iran hits back, launching retaliatory strikes at a major base in Qatar housing about 10,000 U.S. personnel. Iran responding with short and medium-range missiles targeting Al Udeid Air Base. Thankfully, there were no known injuries or casualties. The move, a response to the U.S. strikes on nuclear facilities. You can see here the impact from those B-2 bombers. U.S. bases in the region tonight on alert, closing airspace not just in Qatar, but in Bahrain and Iraq. President Trump weighing in, calling Iran's response, quote, very weak. We've got full team coverage starting in Tel Aviv with Richard Engel. And Richard, I want to get right to that breaking news. What more do we know about President Trump's call for a ceasefire?
Well, Tom, it was less of a call and more of a unilateral announcement. He said that Israel and Iran have completely agreed to a ceasefire, that it will begin over the course of the next several hours, and that within 24 hours it will be over, that it will mark the end of what he described as the 12-day war. We have heard nothing from Israel, no comment from Israeli officials, nor anything from Iranian officials, and it came just hours after Iran responded militarily with an attack on a U.S. base.
Iran threatened to respond to the American strikes on its nuclear sites, and tonight it did, releasing this video firing missiles at Doha, Qatar, targeting a military base housing up to 10,000 American personnel. Air defense systems immediately lit up the sky over the sprawling Al Udeid Air Base. Tonight, Qatar says it successfully thwarted the Iranian attack, which it strongly condemned. A senior Qatari official telling NBC News Qatar was expecting the attack. Hours earlier, Qatar closed its airspace, and Americans in the country were told to shelter in place. The Iranian attack appears to have been largely symbolic. Israel's attacks on Iran are certainly not. Israel is stepping up its strikes inside Iran and expanding the kind of targets it's hitting. And Iran isn't holding back against Israel either, launching new attacks. This one captured on a dash cam. Another tearing off the front of an entire apartment block in Tel Aviv, leaving just a skeleton. An Iranian ballistic missile fired in retaliation to the American strikes in Iran exploded right here, destroying everything in the area except for this lone safe room with that metal window and reinforced concrete walls. Remarkably, a family of 4 was crammed inside, and all of them survived. What is it like for you now to look at your apartment like this?
What can I say? It's my life.
Osnat Steinberger was trying to recover photographs and her paintings today from her apartment. But even with everything gone, she told us she still supports what Israel and the U.S. are doing, saying better to fight Iran now while it's weak.
We learned from 7 October that when somebody's threatening you for many years, believe him.
But with so much destruction, she says she hopes it's over now and that it's time for negotiations. Richard Engel, NBC News, Tel Aviv.
All right, we want to get right back to that dramatic post from President Trump about a ceasefire between Israel and Iran tonight. Let's get straight to Gabe Gutierrez at the White House. Gabe, I understand you have some more reporting about this post and the ceasefire.
Tom, the vice president just said that President Trump has been working the phones constantly. He spent much of the day in the Situation Room, and now this surprise announcement. The administration touting this as a major foreign policy victory.
Just hours after Iran fired its missiles, tonight President Trump is calling it a very weak response, which we expected and have very effectively countered, adding no Americans were harmed and hardly any damage was done. Most importantly, they've gotten it all out of their system. I want to thank Iran for giving us early notice, which made it possible for no lives to be lost. The president then writing, "Congratulations, world. It's time for peace." 6 weeks ago, President Trump had visited Iran's target, Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, speaking to troops there.
You're the finest we have.
While tonight, NBC News is also learning the White House made a last-minute effort to avoid U.S. intervention in Iran by exploring back-channel talks with Iranian officials in Turkey, according to a senior administration official. President Trump offered to send Vice President Vance and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff to Istanbul last week and was even willing to go himself, the official said. But the plan never materialized because Iran's supreme leader could not be reached to authorize a meeting. Instead, using these B-2 bombers, the U.S. launched its airstrikes this weekend on 3 Iranian nuclear sites, including Isfahan. This new video shows the fireball in the distance. Before and after images also reveal massive damage at the sites and show the holes where American bunker buster bombs hit before exploding underground. NBC News is also learning alarming new details about the potential fallout. Iran sent a private message to President Trump days before the U.S. attack, warning if the president launched airstrikes, Iran could respond with terrorist attacks inside the U.S. by activating its sleeper cells here, according to 2 U.S. officials and a person with knowledge of the threat. The U.S. classifies the Iranian regime as a state sponsor of terrorism. The Department of Homeland Security is warning of potential cyber attacks and a heightened threat environment.
There could be more potential for threats here at home, and so that's why we're at an elevated threat right now.
Gabe Gutierrez, NBC News, the White House.
And as the world tries to make sense of the president's post about a ceasefire, this just came hours after Iran's missile attack on that base in Qatar. NBC's Courtney Kube is at the Pentagon with new reporting. Courtney, what have you learned?
Yeah, Tom, defense officials say that the U.S. military actually shot down many of those missiles fired from Iran in conjunction with their Qatari partners. Now, tonight it's not clear if these missiles were the entire Iranian military response to U.S. strikes over the weekend against their nuclear program, or if there could be more acts of retaliation coming. Earlier today, officials warned about possible threats against other bases in the region, where the U.S. has at least 40,000 U.S. military personnel based on land and at sea. Defense officials say the U.S. is ready to respond if Iran continues to target the U.S. military. But tonight, we're also waiting for more information about this ceasefire that President Trump announced between Israel and Iran and how it could impact all these decisions. Tom?
Courtney Kube with that new reporting. Courtney, we thank you. We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.